Have you ever walked away from something and only realized much later that you were one step away from making it? There's a quiet, specific kind of pain that very few people talk about openly. It's not the pain of having failed, it's the pain of having quit too soon, of having left a relationship that still had life in it, of having abandoned a dream that was still breathing, of having stopped believing in yourself at the exact moment the transformation was already happening, just on the inside where no one's eyes can reach. This pain is unique because it doesn't shout, it whispers. It shows up in the middle of the night when you remember that project you walked away from, or when you see someone else living exactly what you once set out to build. If you're here, you probably know that whisper. And before we go any further, if this message is already resonating with you, subscribe to the Mensagens de Alma channel and turn on notifications. Every subscription helps us carry this word to someone who may need it even more than you do. Society has taught us a very well-packaged lie, that speed is a sign of value. If something takes too long, it must not be working. That if you haven't arrived yet, maybe it just isn't meant for you. That slow results are the same as bad results. And we've internalized this so deeply that we begin applying it to everything: our relationships, our goals, our own growth as human beings. You have an argument with your partner and ask yourself, why haven't we figured this out yet? You launch a business, and after 3 months without profit, you think, this just isn't for me. You begin working on your spirituality, meditating, praying, practicing forgiveness, and when you look in the mirror and still see the same reactions, the same anxiety, the same jealousy, you lose heart. But here's what nobody tells you. You are measuring a construction project on the wrong timeline. Imagine someone walking into a cathedral on the very first day of construction. They see mud, scattered stones, tools on the ground, workers covered in sweat, and they conclude, this will never amount to anything. They aren't wrong about what they see. They're wrong about how much time it takes to see it. You've been doing this with your own life. Spirituality, and here I'm talking about a living, breathing spirituality, not a set of cliches, offers us one of the most liberating lenses through which to understand time. According to the spiritual vision that guides this channel, we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spirits having a human experience, and that changes everything. Because if you are a spirit on a journey, then this life is not the entire story. It's a single page, an important, rich page, full of lessons, but a page nonetheless. Chico Xavier, across many works dictated by the spirits, conveyed an understanding that few people are truly able to absorb, that those you love most deeply today were often your adversaries in previous incarnations, that the deepest bonds are not born from coincidence, but from a long process of encounters, conflicts, forgiveness, and reunion across many lifetimes. So when you look at a difficult relationship and think about walking away because it just isn't working, perhaps what is actually happening is that you are in the middle of a process that began long before this lifetime, one that requires the very thing you most want to avoid: time, patience, and presence. This does not mean you should stay in any situation that is destroying you. Discernment, always. But it does mean that the difficulty within a relationship is not in and of itself a sign that it must end. Sometimes it's a sign that it is about to transform. Let's move from the abstract to the concrete, because that's where life actually happens.
The relationship you almost left. Picture a couple who went through a dark season together. Emotional distance, broken communication, the sense that the love had simply disappeared. Many couples reach this point and read that silence as the end, but some choose to stay, not out of obligation, but out of a faith that what was built together deserves a real chance at rebuilding. Those couples, years later, share an intimacy that couples who never faced a storm rarely know, because what survived the darkness carries a strength that what was never tested simply doesn't have. The professional who almost quit. There was a story of a young pianist who saw himself as inferior to every one of his peers at the conservatory. While they played complex pieces, he was still struggling with basic scales. He felt ashamed. He considered stopping. But his teacher said something simple that he never forgot. The difference between you and them isn't talent, it's time. They started earlier. Keep going. Years later, that young man was one of the most respected pianists of his generation. What changed? Nothing dramatic, just the quiet accumulation of ordinary days of practice. That is the secret that the greats never put in the headlines. Most of life's great achievements were built on days when no one applauded, no one was watching, and the builder themselves had serious doubts. The inner transformation you can't yet measure. You began working through your anxiety. You started observing your thoughts, practicing gratitude, praying with more intention, and yet, on an ordinary Thursday afternoon, you lost your patience with someone you love. You felt like you hadn't grown at all. But consider this. Before, you would have erupted and never looked back. Today, after the outburst, you saw yourself. You noticed. You felt the discomfort of that behavior in a way you hadn't before. That is growth. Quiet. Invisible to anyone looking from the outside, but as real as a root growing underground before it ever breaks the surface. If you feel this content is rearranging something inside you, share this video with someone who is close to giving up on a dream, a relationship, or themselves. Sometimes the right word arrives through the hands of someone who cares. The entire universe is a lesson in the long game. The mountains you admire in a photograph were sculpted by forces that worked for millions of years. The precious stones the world treasures spent centuries under extreme pressure and heat before becoming what they are. The cosmos itself, the vast expanse of stars, galaxies, and life, is the result of an expansion that began 13.8 billion years ago and is still unfolding right now as you breathe. If the intelligence that created all of this works on a long timeline, why would we expect our own small and precious journey to be any different? There is an Eastern proverb that says, "The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now." But I want to go further than that. The mistake isn't in not having planted sooner. The mistake is looking at today's small, fragile seedling and concluding it will never become a tree. Every great tree was once a fragile seedling someone could have stepped on without even noticing. You may be stepping on your own seedling every time you quit prematurely. So, what do we do with all of this? I'm not asking you to embrace a blind, naive faith that ignores reality. I'm inviting you into something harder and more beautiful than that. Mature faith. The kind that sees the difficulty, acknowledges the pain, admits the uncertainty, and still chooses to keep going. Adjust your expectations, not downward, but toward the right timeline. In that family situation that wears you down, keep being a source of light, even when the darkness seems unyielding. Light doesn't need to fight the darkness. It only needs to exist. In that professional dream that feels far away, stop comparing your process to other people's outcomes. You're seeing their highlight reel, not their backstage. Keep building your backstage. In that spiritual transformation that feels slow, remember that virtue is not an event, it's a habit. It's not the moment you decided to be patient. It's the 1,000th moment you chose patience, even with the voice of irritation screaming louder. And in your life as a whole, trust the process without surrendering the action. Trusting in divine timing is not folding your arms and waiting. It's planting at the right rhythm, watering with consistency, and having the humility to recognize that the harvest has its own calendar. Jesus said, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." That truth does not reveal itself to those who are in a hurry. It unfolds layer by layer to those who have the courage to keep going even without being able to see the destination. Water that drips steadily wears through the hardest stone, not by force, by persistence, not by speed, by constancy. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have it all figured out. You only need not to give up today. Because one day, and that day will come, you will look back and understand every step, every period of waiting, every night that felt like it would never lead to morning. And you will see that the entire path made sense, even in the moments when you couldn't see beyond the very next step. The universe does not reward those who arrive first. It transforms those who never stop walking. Don't give up. The best of what you are building is still ahead. If this message stirred something in you, leave a comment below. In which area of your life do you need more patience right now? Read the comments and share, because here, no one walks alone. Subscribe to the Messages of the Alma channel, turn on the bell, and share this video with someone who is close to giving up on a dream. Your act of sharing might be exactly what that person needed to hear today. Until the next message, with faith always.